me today is Murray Reade, Chief Executive of the Regional Development Agency, Northland Inc. Tēnā koe, Murray, how are you?
Kia ora, Peter. I'm very good, thank you. Very good.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, Murray, we've gone from economic development to economic recovery in a fairly short space of time. What does this switch look like in practical terms, and how has it changed Northland Inc's priorities?
Yeah, great question, Peter. So we did two things. First of all, we looked at what was going to occur and assessed that in Northland, particularly, given we've got a lot of smaller businesses, that if we went into a period of lockdown for 4 weeks or greater, they would be under extreme pressure, given the resilience and reserves they had. So the first thing we did was we set up it was a very tactical activity. We set up a helpline, and the bulk of the team were trained in how to engage with smaller business, because under normal business as usual, we've probably only got 2 or 3 teams that operate engaging with the smaller businesses for some of the support we provided. So we assessed that there would be a lot of small businesses in trouble, and spent a bit of time training the team before we went into lockdown, and then set up the helpline and put most of the team on that helpline. And so that helpline got a lot of use, and is still getting a lot of use with smaller businesses calling in for help. So that was one of the first things we did straight away to help our smaller businesses. The second thing we realised, and this is where the regional leadership came to play, our council leaders really took up the challenge there. So the second thing we did was a more effective engagement with the other agencies across our region to establish lines of communication so that we could look forward to how we can move from this emergency situation into a recovery and then transitioning our economy. I guess at a more detailed level, some of the stuff we did straight away was hook into civil defence, so providing a lot of the economic data we're collecting from the businesses we deal with help inform what civil defence are doing. So a bit of it is information dissemination. But I think the key thing we're doing is, as people are developing on the ground a lot of their plans, particularly through council, we've landed in a space where we're going to get oversight of that and make sure we can coordinate it. And the most important thing is dealing with the Provincial Growth Fund and Provincial Development Unit, so that once they confirm what projects will be approved, contracted and let, we're in a position to have oversight of that to make sure it's focused. The great thing about Northland, as you probably realise, Peter, is that people just will get off their arse and do stuff, which is really cool. So we don't want to duplicate effort. So our thing is, our issue is looking at the medium to long term so that we get some focus and coordination. So that's kind of the space we're sitting in at the moment.
Everyone's been talking about the need for a coordinated approach to economic recovery, identifying the priority actions and then moving on those. What's been going on in the background in terms of getting to that point?
Yeah, so that is a really good point. And so one of the most important things that's come out of, you talk about the switch, is that we've stopped, and behind the scenes there have been groups established to look at to do, as you said, look at that kind of assessing the situation and moving forward. So there has been an interagency group set up, and so I've got to commend our councils for doing that. So all the key agencies in the region have come together, right across from social welfare, to Puni Kōkiri and ourselves and other businesses and iwi, to look at the problem, to do exactly that, to consolidate, review what's going on and move forward.
You talked about sort of getting everybody together and having a bit of a powwow about priorities and ways forward and all of that kind of stuff. When's that talking and thinking going to be done by, and when are we going to see the package?
So it's something that we've just been talking about within the economic recovery group that's been set up under the broader interagency group. It's something that I've been thinking about, and so we'll have to do a little bit of planning, because obviously we're still in level 3, so we've got another couple of weeks to go before we can sort of engage face to face, really. So we'll do a bit of thinking. And I've got to work this through with the team. My view would be, once we're in a position where we can, say level 2 or whatever that looks like, of course, then start it then. And it's quite a simple process, I guess, of communication. Go out to those key businesses, as you've been doing, and into the communities, and attempt to bring them bring them all together in some way, shape or form. So we can do exactly what you said, capture all the issues, capture those lessons so that we can help inform a strategic or an economic development plan for the future.
Why does it have to wait till level 2? Why can't all of that talking be done in this kind of format?
Yeah, and you're right. So some of it obviously is being done. So we run a helpline through through Northland Inc. So we're gathering a lot of information, one-on-one information then, and so we've also started engaging with big business via this mechanism. Two things, I guess. The first is, at the moment, as you can appreciate, people are so engaged and focused on just trying to recover that's all they're focused on. So we've got to be very mindful of that. And secondly, this medium is probably, it's a great medium, but if you've got 30 or 15 or whatever amount of people, I feel it's better probably to have everyone in a room and really engage in that manner. But to answer your question, we've already started the process through our helpline. And then we as Northland Inc are reaching out to the bigger businesses and just having one-on-one with the key staff in those businesses. And then equally, as part of the recovery group, we provide intelligence reports through the civil defence. So we are gathering the information, but I think the next stage, if you like, a phased approach, is once we get out of this lockdown period and we can sit around in a room, then we'll continue on.
Okay. What are the priority areas of action, Murray?
So each of the councils and each group's put forward their own projects. So that went out fairly quickly. So we're just in the process at the moment of pulling those projects that were put forward to do exactly as I said, to get a coordinated view. And clearly, as we move forward, we want to strategically manage those projects so it's got an outcome that's better for the region.
So in this series, we've heard from some of the leaders of larger businesses and larger sectors, and there is a feeling of cautious optimism, I guess. What's the mood like out in amongst the many, many small to medium-sized businesses, and what's Northland Inc doing specifically for those guys?
Yeah, great question, Peter, and that you're right. So the bigger businesses we've been talking to, like yourself, have the resilience, and there is confidence there because they can, that they've got the infrastructure to be able to. But to your point about smaller businesses, as we talked about, a large proportion of our economy is small businesses, and a large proportion of them are 5 people or less. So in terms of those businesses that we deal with on a daily basis, there is a lot of stress, a lot of stress. They're, in terms of particularly around cash flow, business continuity, dealing with staff, because a lot of these smaller businesses have people that some of them are friends, and so you get a lot of issues in terms of when your business is under pressure. So how are we dealing with that? So we have set up a helpline, and so that has been staffed pretty much, I'd say, by 70% of the Northland Inc team since we went into the lockdown, and essentially taking calls from smaller businesses. So the regional business partnership program that is run across New Zealand, has been really helpful for those businesses. So they register, and then we provide them with financial support in terms of advice and consultancy. So that's something that's been going on. And so in the last 2 odd weeks, they've done about a year's worth of work in terms of the engagements. So that's been our primary means of helping smaller businesses. They'll ring in, talk to one of the business advisors, and then we'll provide them advice and support where necessary. So that the almost 50% of the calls we get are to do with financial issues, business continuity. And so that's how we're helping those smaller businesses. But a lot of stress out there. There's, as you could probably appreciate, a lot of worry, a lot of hurt.
Yeah, no, there certainly is. So Murray, the Taitokoro Northland Economic Action Plan has been referenced on many occasions in these interviews. How is that being tweaked, changed, shifted, reprioritized in order to deal with what we're facing now?
It could provide an excellent platform to execute projects moving forward. The key thing, of course, is that's an execution model. We need to overlay on top of that some kind of strategic plan to ensure that we're focusing our efforts. We don't want to take a scattergun approach. As we mentioned before, if we feel that tourism and the primary industry or manufacturing are critical areas of focus, then we need to make sure, for example, projects in that regard are given a little bit more effort potentially.
Murray Reade, Northland Inc. Thank you very, very much indeed for your time. Really appreciate that and appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Ngā mihi nui, kia kaha.
Ngā mihi.